The story so far, we had a massive battle at Mars, and the Ares Corporation has taken Mars with very few losses on their own. They took one of the bases, captured a couple of ships. They also instigated a revolt on Vesta, which doesn't mean a hell of a lot. We take the base, we take away some opportunities that maybe the Martians would have to equip some of these ships with fighters. But yeah, the big question now is, what does the Martian fleet do? And this becomes kind of maybe a shell game, right? I could go after Mars. If that's what I'm just going to do, and Ares knows that, then Ares could fortify Mars with almost everything they have. And they can do it if anything, even more quickly than the Martians can get their fleet there. Because their fleet has to come from Vesta. It's going from Juno to Vesta. Let's take a look at how that works. Vesta should be blue now. Very temporarily. So Juno to Vesta, oddly enough, is a blue area. And that would probably be... It's hard to tell. Mars might be beyond the halfway point, which would make it more expensive to get back to Mars directly from here. But I want to land there. I want to capture it. I want to get my fighters so that I can fight more heavily. But then I have a choice. I basically will be trying to send my entire Martian fleet to either Earth or Mars. If I take Earth, that's a harder task to take because there's 6 bases there, in essence. But if Earth is not as well garrisoned as Mars is, then, it might be the better choice. Earth probably won't be as well garrisoned for the simple fact that the Martians need to only have 1 base present. So I need more of my ships around Mars, but I don't want it to be too many more. Movement. The cometary orbit ships, as well as the ones in the 1 box, have moved in, ready to go take Vesta. Now, they will not have fighters for this, whereas Vesta will have missiles, but it's just a base. It's going to fall. Might end up destroyed, though. That's the danger here, right? And it might take something with it. And this is going to be the main Martian fleet that has to come back for either Mars or Earth. So, pretty ugly overall. Anyway, on to transit allocation. Obviously, I could just send this fleet all back out. But again, I want to recuperate. I want to get the Ceres ships in play, etc. But that gives the Ares Corporation time to work things out. You know, it's funny, again, I look in the comments, and the people who like this game, who really love it for the complete strategic surprise, the complete operational surprise in the game. I just don't understand that. It doesn't seem to me, it's a game of pure bluff at that point. You're basically, I just don't know. I just don't know. I think that's the only thing people really like about it. And they're like people who win the game in the first few turns off a lucky guess. And it's just like, why is this interesting to you? Why don't you just I'll put 3 cards down. It's kind of like, why don't you just play Stratego, but instead of with all the maneuver and capability in Stratego that gives you some knowledge of what the other person's doing, instead just create a thing with 3 boxes. 2 of them, if you hold 2 of those 3 boxes, a specific 2, not any 2. If you hold 2 of those 3 boxes, you win, okay? And you have 1 piece that will beat any other piece, and 1 piece and the other 2 pieces, are ranked likewise down. Or even Yeah, even in Stratego, you at least have the, the spy who can take out the marshal or whatever. And that's really what you come down to. It's like a shell game or something. You're just playing guess where the damn thing is. Guess where they're hitting you, And if you line it up right, you might have a mauling, horrible battle that's gonna, send both people into a really awful position. But the people who seem most excited by it are like, oh yeah, I managed to slip this in and won in the first couple turns. And I'm like, what are you so excited about this? That's not fun. I mean, maybe it gave you wood, maybe you found it funny and exciting and everything, but it's not a good game design. Okay. Anyway, do I want to transit anything? That's the big question. I think Earth needs to start coming up with their decisions as to what they're doing. I don't think there's anything exciting that the Martians necessarily want to do. I could do something, like send the Jupiter catapults out. Maybe I want to. Maybe I want to send one out, but I think I want to get those missiles on board, fighters on board anyhow. Okay, so Ares is transiting a couple of ships from the asteroids. I don't like stripping them down like this, but I don't feel like I have much choice. I really don't. I'm a little worried because Mars could conceivably cut me off by taking the asteroids, and then I have no production just like they have no production. But I could get some production off Word. I'm not going to get anything off Mars. We'll see what they do. But what I feel like I need to do is to make sure Mars is well defended against the larger Martian fleet, and that Earth has enough ships as well. Yeah, there's this huge stack of bases, but we saw only 2 of them kind of can support each other at all, at best. And really, each base can be taken down one at a time. So really the question becomes, if you're defending 6 bases, you don't have a lot of ships at each base, and they're rather spaced out. Dude. So I'm kind of worried that Earth can't hold both of these against the Martian fleet. And then the question becomes, what does Mars go after? And so I don't think this is over. By the way, I had to flip the Mars counter over. We're going to probably see Vesta come back to the red side, but right now this is all that's red. That puts us to one hell of a combat, which I am going to do by cheating. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play this on, since there's no Earth ships whatsoever, I'm going to play this on a limited version where I can put my counters spread out more. I'll show you how I do it. Just on the XY axis. And honestly, at a very, very limited sort of level where I'm doing as little as possible to get my firepower in play. So here's how I'm setting things up. I am creating, I'm just going to use this column. This is how I said you could do the whole thing. You could do the whole battle system this way. All the ships, I've got their counters here, a couple of catapults and a bunch of miners. They're coming in with a velocity of 1. The base is here. I've got the excess pieces over here on the side. They don't mean anything. They're just there because I want to keep them. I have not filled out the combat chart. I will not fill it out except as ships need it if they start getting hit or whatever. I'm not going to worry about, first of all, there's no missiles, there's no missiles on this side. There's no there's no fighters on this side. There's missiles on this side. And at an initial velocity of 1, I will eventually get into position. I'll probably stop moving when I am, and I'm using each of these as a single cube from now on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm 11 away. I'll probably move till I'm at range 9. Stop there, and then use the fact that I can do fire groups and that thing can't. And I'm outside of the range of its missiles. Remember, its missiles launch at a speed of 0, it can't hit anything with missiles that's further than 6 away from and just start plugging away at it. At that greater range, well, my fire groups are going to be big enough that I still have a shot at destroying it. There's not much I can do about that. I could try plinking it at very long range as well. Its 6 firepower makes it somewhat potent, I guess. I don't know. And, you know, we're just going to fight this out in the most strapped down version as possible. Now, you could argue, hey, why don't you just use the strategic combat system or the tactical abstract? The reason for not doing that is the results are just different. The fact that this is a fixed base, and the same is true with like, not star bases, I'm trying to remember what they're called, battle stations or whatever, in SFB. The base stations and battle stations in SFB are fairly weak. A fleet can park outside of a range where they can really wreck a ship and just demolish it from that range. You can't do the same with star bases in SFB. But this is more like the base station. You're able to park at a certain range and just destroy it if there's no supporting fleet. And that's going to happen here, whether it gets destroyed or whether I'm able to strip its lasers. That's the only real question. By the way, I think the tactical abstract, I think the way that works is because of these percentage losses being based on the strength of the unit they're hitting, which is kind of a weird choice as well. Like, you know, I could have 10 times as many ships here, and I'm still not going to wipe it out with one shot or anything like that. I'm still going to only do 50% losses to it. Those 50% losses mean that I'm going to cripple it, right? It's really unlikely that I destroy a ship using a base using the tactical abstract. But it is a really fair compromise here, possibility here. So what's happened is the ships moved forward a couple of spaces. I gave them the extra space just because, right? Because you wouldn't start within 9 cubes of something. But now I burned fuel for each ship, not marking it down, no reason to. And I'm parked here, and now I'll start exchanging fire. And I mean, I roll, and let's see, does Ares get first shot? Nope, the Martians get first shot, and I choose what I want to shoot. And I don't have to keep firing, right? All I'm trying to do is neutralize this damn thing. An easier representation of the attack, I move these guys back to indicate that they've fired. So now I've got 4 8 points of fire coming in. Where are my dice? Range is going to be 7. Unfortunately, 7's kind of nice because I only get a 1 in 6 chance of, I only get the 1 in 36 of destroying, which is exactly what I want. So what did I say? Range is 7, firepower, well, so the firepower is high. The firepower is 8, which means I actually have a higher chance because I get on the 12 table too easily, like I just did. And a 2 does nothing. And now it gets to shoot back. I might as well try to win. I'll try to hit the catapult. I'm 6 at range 9. And we're just going to do a lot of die rolling, and I'm not going to show you all of it. 11. I don't get a hit. Net effect of fire, and I did mark this down on the sheet, is the base got 1 hit against it total, where it lost its most important repair box. Repair is actually a problem with bases. I do have to keep shooting them. I have to strip their entire laser fire. I shifted to shooting 3 miners at a time because that gets me on the 6. Gives me on a +6 for the dice, which means I only have a 1 in 6 chance of getting to the 12 table. And then for the last group, which could have been 8, 9, 10 strength points, I actually fired each ship individually just to make sure that I don't get into the stupid area. But that means a lot of these are like, hey, I don't hit if I get here. I've got a 1 in 6 chance of hitting here, a 1 in 6 chance of hitting here, etc. So it's pretty hard to actually hit them. Of this combat system with its, hey, ship destroyed results, etc., is definitely far more volatile and random than, say, playing out an SFB battle is. In an SFB battle, I can go in against, like I said, a base station or whatever, and with a reasonable, with a normal fleet, and if it's relatively undefended or whatever, I can just position myself at a certain range. I can count on myself having the shields brought down on a small ship, if I have smaller ships there, and it being chewed up, and then turning away and, getting out of there, and being able to destroy the base in 3 turns or whatever it takes. This, we're just waiting to see, what the incredibly random results bring us. And on turn 3, we got an unlucky shot, destroyed the base. We had taken, I think, a single part and a burn on one of our catapults from fire, and that's it. It's over. The base is gone. Too bad. So the recapture of Vesta. Let's see what we have. Mars wins a battle. That's 2 Earth morale. And so actually this is worse than not having a revolt for Earth, right? Because the 7-point swing between the 2 planets is one thing, which may or may not be okay. The fact that there was a revolt and then it's recaptured, we'll see that in a moment. But I also lost a battle. And then, let's see. Mars captures an asteroid, that's -4 + 3. Which puts Earth down back into the 40s. Both sides losing a little bit of morale here. And that gives us political interaction, which means first we do Earth. And again, I logged. Vesta's been recaptured. Ooh. Okay. This, we're going to have 2 here. We have 2 on Mars. Both are going to spend their full. Because why not? Okay. And so the Earth table will be at -2. We get a 1, word neutrality. That means these don't move forward. Actually, well, it means they move back and they'll go forward again, assuming production capabilities are in play. And then we go to the Martian side of things, and there both will spend 2. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Martian assassin attempt. I don't have any points. Who do I want to kill? There's only one worth killing. It's him. This could bonus Earth morale. I don't know. Sure. We'll do it. 6. Indeed it does. Earth morale goes back up into the 50s. Great. All these charts and everything, they're not providing that much richness to a game. And this may be the thing. This may be why the only people who like this, or the people who really, really seem to like it, are people who really like the absolute guesswork game. That I find neither really all that believable in terms of, yeah, come on. You got a bunch of spies out there, and you got tracking capabilities that are at least equivalent to what we had in the 1970s, and you can't see a fleet coming. You can't tell the difference between a fleet and a bunch of balloons or something. I don't know. Anyway, I just don't know. All right. That gets us there. I just find the hidden movement to be incredibly difficult to believe and accept. Logistics and maintenance. Earth. Earth has enough catapults. They get 6 logistics points. They're going to be able to do something with that. And Mars, of course, doesn't have Mars, so they get nothing. I guess we start building an Earth fleet. And that's the end of another turn. Trying to remember what there was something I was going to say. I don't remember what. Thought it was clever, but it passed my mind. Oh yeah, the bases. The bases are very, very expensive. Now, you got to figure. They're saying, you know, the cost must be the amount of raw materials that are being put above the planet. Maybe the fact that you can put these anywhere, as opposed to being built at either Mars or Earth, etc. I can see why the bases are that expensive, but they aren't worth the cost. The fact that they have no mobility capability whatsoever makes them, I think, pretty iffy. So like I was thinking about, well, do I want to build more bases for Mars? I don't think so. I think you're probably better off just not building bases. they're not a good purchase. The Vesta fleet has been set up with its missiles and whatnot, and next turn we start programming. And again, by not playing with hidden movement, I think I still get almost as much operational surprise because of the difficulty of shifting forces. Like, you really have to defend the spaces that you're going to defend. So then the question becomes, what does Mars want to do? Do they want to strip away the asteroids, which I actually think may be the best solution here? Like, take away the productive capability of the Earth fleet rather than go for one of the two big planets. Do I want to go for Earth, which I think is actually less well defended than Mars at this point? We'll see. The problems to keep in mind, this is the only logistics points Mars has. If my ships start getting crippled, I have no capability to repair them without owning Mars. Now, if I take Earth away, I take away all of Earth's capability, all of the Ares Corporation's capabilities to build and repair as well. And their logistics is lower. Now, if I take their satellites away, yeah, I get the same thing. And so maybe if I hit both satellites at once, can I do that? My fleet is definitely bigger than those two. I don't know. Honestly, maybe one of the things that I'm looking at is there seems to be perhaps a dominant strategy to the game, based on which side you're on and whatnot. But you know, at this particular moment, it looks like there may be a dominant strategy in terms of I can maybe get these for the least cost compared to trying to take out either Mars or Earth, and have a very similar effect to what I would get for taking out Earth. Of course, so the thing is, the Earth fleet kind of the Ares fleet kind of has to garrison the two main planets. My battery's dying. Any chance of holding either, and I think that's kind of the thing, is that there's too much to defend, and I think it's going to wear down, quite possibly. I think most games may wear down to a situation where both sides don't have any production left. Now, if that's done early enough and fast enough, that should favor the Martians, because they will have their fighters. They have them now, and they start with a larger mobile fleet probably. And that means that they should be able to win the attrition war. But there's operational surprise already built in, significant, in terms of where the ships are heading. Because reprogramming where ships are going to is relatively expensive. The best you get out of it is I'm flying in the general direction of one of two planets, and I can switch to the other one, and it's not going to really cost me. But if you have to backtrack or anything, it really does cost you, and it's probably cheaper to actually stop at another planet and pick another location. So simply which track you're on provides almost as much operational obfuscation at the important point as this sort of complete, I've got no idea, what's in that task force. It could be one ship. It could be a huge battle fleet. The one thing and the one place where the operational surprise would really work well in terms of, well, I don't know about would work well, but would be really powerful is that you have no fucking clue what's at the planets either. And that's the case. And again, that is probably the least believable of all, because there's these agents and, come on. If there's a fleet station there, the near instantaneous communication at light speed compared to the very slow transit speeds between planets with these nuclear engines is, that information is going to get through. And it's going to get through fast enough that, you can make your plans with that. So I just don't, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand why people are at all interested in playing this with the almost full lack of operational intelligence. One day, another day of rain. Here we are. Ships get to move. Anything exciting about to happen? It doesn't look like it. Wow, things hitting the roof. Okay. Confused me. I wasn't sure I put the record button on anymore. So, the ships have arrived that are arriving. Nothing big there. I think Ares is largely got to stay to fortify Mars and Earth. The question, though, is what's up with the choices of what to launch. Now, the ships here have all been repaired and prepared. So that's Vesta. Vesta is 2 turns from Mars and, of course, Earth. It's 2 turns from Juno. It's 2 turns from Pallas. Anywhere I want to go, it's a 2-turn trip. Likewise, Ceres, I have a couple extra catapults there I absolutely don't need. Might have an extra catapult elsewhere as well. Ceres, 2 turns to everywhere except Juno. So Juno is the only place where I can't combine all my ships. My gut tells me, well, let's fight out the big battle. Let's win the battle. Let's do it, man. But logic is saying it might be as valuable an option to take Pallas. Gather my fleet there. Juno, maybe not so much. Bigger fleet, etc. But strip away Earth's capability, or the Ares Corporation's capability to, build ships additionally. They will still get these that are online, but they're going to get them anyway by the time the strike hits. I'm left with let me roll a die and figure out which one I'm going to go to. I'm going to leave Juno out of it, but I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Simply because I can't tell you what I think is the best place to hit. Mars is going to be the hardest to take. That I know. Mars is what we're going for. Oh, man, it looks really tough. Like, Earth looks much, much easier, even with all these big bases there. But Mars is my goal, eventually. What's Jupiter to Mars? Jupiter to Mars looks like it's just going to be outside of that 2 range. Because it's going to be having to hit here. I maybe could have gotten here within 2, but I'm not going to get here, which means I probably don't want to launch anything out of Jupiter to go there. But I do think I want to gather pretty much every damn thing I have, if that's the case. Because I just do not see a point to holding anything back if I don't have Mars back. And when I stack the forces out here, it does not look worth it. It doesn't look like I'm going to win the fight, man. Or it's going to be one hell of a close one. The thing is, I'm pretty sure I could win the Earth fight, but there are 1, 2, 3 more ships that are going to be there, plus these guys. The other thing is, of course, Earth could translate some ships over, but I'm not counting on them doing that. The reason, or they're not counting on doing that. The reason they're not is that, 1, I want the production coming through. 2, I'm a little worried about, like, if these ships leave or try to play, you know, obviously, here's where the operational intelligence would really happen, is that the entire Martian fleet evacuates and goes back to Earth to try to catch me in a trap or something. And what happens if they do? Well, you know, then I turn around and go back when I see what's at Earth, right? I don't launch the attack if I'm overburdened. Anyway, we're going to drop from Juno to Earth. Let's see what that does. Is that a reasonable trip? Yeah, that's a 2-turner as well. Yeah. Why to Earth? Because I feel like Earth is less well defended. And I mean, the one thing that the Martians were maybe hoping for is that Ares moved some of its ships out of Mars, because Mars looks like it's more heavily defended. But I had definitely decided I was not doing that. I rolled my die. I'll take my chances. I think either of the other options would have been stronger. I think stripping away Ares' capability to build and repair as much as mine is would be of some value. It's probably not enough to win the war, though. I mean, we look, and I don't feel like my fleet is significantly bigger than that fleet guarding Mars. It's a little bigger. And Mars is definitely the bigger prize. I get Mars, I get these guys moving back on the track. I have this online. I don't have anything online at either of these, but I do have some repair points, some points available that I can start producing, because they're just floating around in the ether, and I can draw them in wherever I need them, which disturbs me. But like, it feels to me like resources should have to be at a given location. But yeah, all right. I don't think it's an invalid option. There's no combat, onto political. Earth gets some points. They're getting, 1 point a turn at this point? Nobody's got all 4 asteroids, although Mars is trying to give up. Vesta at the very least. And then, yeah. Okay, we got political points. I'm sorry, I'm just a little stunned because I got to start finding the rules that I'm going to read next. So what do we got? We're on Earth. Mars will blow its 4. Earth will blow its 2. Earth's got an extra point, basically. But anyway, Mars has got -2 on here, which ends up with word neutrality. That pushes these all back again, which means we're not getting that production. And we go to the Mars one. Both sides will spend 2 here. giving me a 3, which is Earth morale down 1. Okay. And then we're on the logistics phase. To spend 1 logistics point to repair their badly damaged catapult. That's up here at Ceres. The Earth ships were fine if they needed refueling or reloading of missiles or whatever. That's all been done. So now both sides are completely loaded up. I've got a lot of... Nope. Okay. I thought I had a lot of ships that were missing munitions, but I don't. They're all fine. And that's going to put me at the planetary movement point. But so at the time when the ship transitions were being made, that was simultaneous. That's when this shows up, right? So there's no real shock. The only difference would be if Mars wanted to try to play tricks here and the guesswork game, from their side, they would be putting, forces maybe to all 3 of these. There would be an extra ship expended on 2 of the attacks. So they have less ships on their main attack. And Earth wouldn't know, Ares wouldn't know which place to defend. Now, because everything's about 2 spaces from each other, by the time next transition happens and I could send the Earth fleet in to defend against this, it's not close enough, right? There is nothing close enough to Mars. I mean, Venus, right? Venus is just about close enough, right? Let's see, we're doing it in the wrong order. That would be from here to here. Not quite. There is nothing close enough. So, I mean, and you can have stuff of Venus, but it doesn't matter. Essentially, nothing is close enough for me to be able to make a reinforcement in time for these to get to fight the battle where these are. Do I want to launch a follow-up wave to hit crippled ships before they repair? That doesn't matter. The ships get a chance to repair, and there's plenty of logistics points. I did have to spend the 1. That by the time Mars gets, after Mars conquers or is conquered, if they win, they will get to repair any and all ships that they have. In addition, they'll get to start building these. So there's nothing I can do with the knowledge of where Mars is attacking. The one place where the lack of operational intelligence would work is which planet is how well defended. And, obviously Mars sent ships out, so I would have absolutely no idea how many ships are sitting at Mars, how many ships are on their way to Earth. I might have also sent a ship from Earth just to further confuse the matter, right? But all I'll know is that there's 1 ship at each location. There's absolutely nothing except for some sort of, this sort of anxiety of not knowing when the problem is going to strike. And yes, that is exciting. That is exciting. That is precisely what made Starship Troopers so exciting for me, was watching my enemy move closer and closer to my nest. But then popping up in a place he didn't think I could possibly be to try to dissuade him from that attack, and him changing his direction based on not believing that I could have gotten there. And I couldn't have, he actually was right, I couldn't have from the base he was attacking. It would not have been possible, but it was possible from the other base, and he didn't realize that. And that's basically where it came from, or from the other nest. The one that he wasn't aware of, right? Anyway. So that kind of, changing someone's mind or not knowing what's coming at you and everything, I agree. There is a certain excitement to that anxiety. I don't really think that's a gameplay thing. I think that's just a psychological trick. And I don't really, I don't see that as a good argument, although it can enhance the enjoyment, you know? All right, anyhow, time to move the planets. After the knowledge that the entire Martian fleet is coming into Mars is present, now I do get to make plans based on that in terms of my translation phase, which is, what's this? Another catapult. All right, I think the Martians are going to move that. I don't know where to. Doesn't really make sense to send it anywhere in particular. Ceres to Vesta is a long flight. Mars to Vesta is not, but Ceres to Vesta is a really long flight. I might want to send one of these out. And that's going to be a 3. Now, this is the point where actually, what if I do this? What if I do a 2 here to Mercury, but then it's another 2 to Vesta? But I could send this to Mercury and be in kind of a position to do something at random. Why don't we do that? It's a really, really weird thing to do. Yeah. Okay. That way I can turn Mercury red, which is worth nothing. But from the Earth point of view, they do have some things that they would not necessarily do that they can now, which is I can go grab Vesta, and I could actually go attack Ceres and or Jupiter and put Mars behind the 8 ball even if they win. So I think I'm going to do that. They had to throw everything in, but, and where would the difference be? The difference would be there would be like 1 counter here. Actually, yeah. I don't know, because you'd have to track where the different ships are, but they are kind of allowed to be in the same task force if they're in the same box, so I don't know. I would know that there was nothing here. So I could go occupy that. These, I wouldn't know how stripped down they were. I could probably make a pretty good guess. Unless Earth was attacking Pallas, or Mars was attacking Pallas. If Mars was attacking Pallas, they might not be sending their full force to Pallas. They might be sending some ships somewhere else. There might be a fairly heavy garrison sitting here at Vesta. Who knows? The only problem with it all, I'm doing it anyway, is that to do so, I no longer have 3 catapults sitting here in Earth orbit. So I can't actually take advantage of the fact that I own 3 asteroids. But that's okay. Political interaction. We get that. Points are put. Spend 4 and 2 again. See, this feels like there should be more things that you program in using the agents. It feels like there's too many agents and not enough to do with them, honestly. And again, one of my viewers, the one who seems very adamant that like playing this without the secrecy is sort of like, you know, taking all the fun away, which it may be. I don't know. I'm having some enjoyment with it, actually. And I don't know how much the secrecy would add. It certainly doesn't add anything to me from gameplay decision standpoint. But yeah, he pointed out, hey, you should have all, your agents on Mars and Earth for the most part. Yeah, the one difference though is he kind of wants some to affect your setup, the revolt table, and to try to determine that you try to allow you to get some asteroids, because you don't want to get completely shut out as either player. Okay, so it's -2 on the Earth table, which is another word neutrality, and the ships just keep piling up. Luckily, Earth, for some reason, has infinite energy. I guess they're using solar power. And solar power would be a little weaker out at Mars, but I don't know if it's that much weaker that it makes a difference, right? Especially if it's orbital solar. And then on the other side, both will spend their 2 to make the Martian roll. Ooh, Earth morale down 3. Horrible. And this is the thing, it's the political side of the game which feels like, hey, they put a lot of effort to build a political game, but it's not a very interesting one. It's just, it's supposed to be a war that's not really won by the military operations so much, yet the political seems really de-emphasized. They didn't make a terribly interesting game out of that. It's important, but it feels less important than, say, the political aspects of Vietnam do in terms of the influence that they have on the game. And less, I don't know, less sort of intricate, less that you're making real decisions on. You're just rolling some dice, man. I just did the political, I haven't done the logistics yet. I went to change pipes and I thought it was the end of a turn. Well, one thing I was going to say is the turns, though, are relatively lightweight. And I'm finding it absolutely easy to stay up here and play turn after turn after turn until a battle happens. The battles end up being a little tedious. But they wouldn't be if I was using the abstract system for the battles, right? So it's got a very, most games I run away from after a turn. I've got to relax after a turn, sometimes midway through a turn, whatever. This is playing in a very, very lightweight sort of fashion that I feel like you could actually play this using the abstract combat in, a setting without it being at all taxing. Well, now it's time for the great battle and trying to extricate the big piles. I had a huge spill, nothing to do with poochiness or anything. Fuck. Anyway, we'll go through the setup of the battle, and then I will try to lightly cover the second Battle of Mars, which is happening here on turn 9. Right, here's how I chose to set up the fleets. I've got, they're all along here now. Everything's in this space for Ares, all moving 0. Everything's in this space for the Martians, with a velocity of 1. Why a velocity of 1? Because of what I learned in the last little battle. Those missiles are not something I want to get near. I don't want to come close to the base. What I'm going to do is move forward like I did in the last battle, sit down and start sieging the base, just, bombarding it, right? Obviously, to make the missiles work, that's going to force Ares to come forward, but I have more total ships, maybe not more total firepower. Let's count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 4 is 28. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 30. I have 58 strength points of ships. I'm not counting the base. Although there is that 6 extra points for the base for long-range fire, which counts, so maybe I should. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 20, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, another 22, 42. I'm badly outgunned, but I'm not if you count all the fighters in and the amount of additional firing groups I'm able to create. Because each miner has 1 fighter and each catapult has 2. And in a sense, as long as they're firing in firing groups, each of those fighters is worth 1 firepower, right? If they're not firing in fire groups, they only have a 0, but you can still use that to plink off missiles and whatnot. So what I'm seeing is I'm going to make Ares come to me if they want their missiles to count. And I think that's the only way that I can win this battle, is to force them to abandon their, to divert from their base. We'll figure out what's happening after that. I am planning on keeping the fleets together for the most part, at least at the beginning. I don't have a solution for fighters yet. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I've got to come up with I think 12 more counters. I think there's 9 fighters. There may only be 7 though. Other than that, there's only 5. Oh boy. So that means 13 counters. And they have to have a number on them, and there has to be 2 of each counter. Don't know. What did I say? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 minus 5 means I need 16 counters. If it was under 10, I could do it pretty easily. 16 is a little harder. Games I'm familiar with, not a hell of a lot that I can think of that would provide me with enough counters for certain. There might be. Maybe something out of Star Force trilogy has them. Maybe something else, but then I finally realized, look, 16 is perfect. 1 through 8 parenthesized, good old terrible swift sword, stands in again with its humongous pile of number counters. It has served me so well so many times in this kind of fashion. So I'll put the fighters over here. I may not need them all because each ship is only able to launch a single fighter at a time. The launch capabilities of both catapults and miners is 1. Missiles are or fighters. So they might get trimmed away before that happens. I doubt it though, because looking at the Martian strategy, their ships are going to be more desirable targets than their fighters. And so unless the Ares force, which is a little stronger, comes charging forward, which maybe they have to do, we'll see. But they can't go too fast because these guys only have a velocity increase of 1. Do I want to send all my transports out in front? That sounds really dangerous. Like, that's a way to get all the transports shot up. Might not be a bad idea because the transports are cheaper than the catapults and a little weaker overall. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, when I start recording the fighters down on the sheet, there aren't a lot of spaces for fighters. So I may have to creep into, three of these packs, maybe even more. There's only 5 spaces because there's only 5 fighters in the game. And if you do this the other way and just say, you're limited by countermix for fighters and for missiles, that means that these mass combats just, they become like very different from what they should be, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense that the ships would be limited, that you would not be able to throw out a bunch of ordnance at the same time. One thing I'm thankful of about this game, for the most part, the tactical game, I'm like, well, it feels a little under-detailed compared to SFB, obviously. Look, SFB started out as a battle game, that's all it really was, and then me, using Fed and Emp or using the campaign scenarios from SFB or Fed Space for a few years in between, was always kind of a, I'm not sure everybody plays it this way. I didn't even play it that way most of the time initially, at least not opposed, but eventually I was able to find someone willing to play the grand campaign with me opposed. And then he left before I think we finished the first or second turn. But anyway, it was, he just had to clear out of town very quickly. Yeah. But it's a weird situation. But the thing that's missing, the thing that I don't miss from SFB is how much they started to make fighter operations, just so detailed, as if they were, creating a game based on modern aircraft carriers and whatnot. And they had somebody who obviously was very interested in that, in the design staff. Anyway, I don't want to go into too much detail. I don't want to blather too much because I'm going to be doing the combat. I don't want to go into too much detail in the combat, but I know that it's going to suck up a lot of video. He's just trying to convince themselves that, no, he's not going to pull that same thing. He's going to close. But no, he's not. So in the joint burn phase, neither one fires off a burn on the first round. Missile and fighter salvo, all the fighters that I can will launch. Calculated, there's a total of 16 fighters, which means I don't need all these counters. Oh. Not going to put them back because I may need them in another battle, but this is the current fighter launch. Now I got to record them all on the sheets. Still more fighters than, I can handle on 2 of these, so I'm using this other one to share both transports and fighters for the Martians. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 more fighters. Yeah, I'm going to be like 1 fighter short of the whole track. I can put one up here too. But boy, that's going to get annoying if it's up there. I'm hoping something gets shot down, but it's not likely the fighters will get shot down. No fire on the first round. We're too far away. So here we are, moving forward. And yeah, Ares is pretty sure that the Martians are going to do the same trick that they did before. As they begin to look at the situation, they're like, oh shit. A burn from the Martians, a burn from Ares though. The remainder of the fighters are out. Everything's on the board. Yeah, we had to record one here. We'll move it if and when we have to, or when we can. And let's see, these move too. They don't really matter. Things are going to get more disrupted. It's not going to all be all the ships in one space, but right now I feel like this is the best way to represent the kind of situation that I've got, because I don't want all these huge stacks in there. A little more acceleration on Ares this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Next turn, we'll be able to fire. I want to take a break. I know that the firing is going to be hideously painful this first time. I'm going to be covering all kinds of chits with stuff and everything. And let's see, next time, 1, 2, let's say I launched 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would barely be in range to dump my missiles on someone. So it might be that next turn also all the missiles launch. Everything except this sucker. And here's the problem. I've got a couple of choices with Mars. With the Ares ships moving this way, all those catapults being very slow to turn around, I could actually eventually accelerate and push in, try to beat up the base, then maybe swing around or whatever. Or I could do a standoff and just try to fight their fleet without the base being involved. In either case, I probably have to do something about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the cube where the base starts to be able to fire. So, yeah. Everything's so compacted, I'm going to do, I'm launching the missiles. Now, I don't have enough missiles to cover the 11 that they could launch at once, but I have enough if I split each missile counter or pair of counters into 1 per missile. And since I'm not really using the XZ, what the hell? So I'm going to do that. That won't work with the fighters because they can maneuver off the plane and everything. It'll be on the board for longer. I wish there was a differentiation. Well, I guess there kind of is. There's red on the other side. So they are using it reasonably. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to represent what's fired and what hasn't in terms of pushing individual ships. Before, when I was using it all in one big square, I could just move ships from one square to another to indicate whether they fired or not. I'm going to do something similar like that here because I don't want to have to worry about counters all over the place. What I'm doing is I'm just shifting the fire groups over as they fire. Now, I'm using 2 different kind of fire groups. For Ares, I'm using what they've been standardly using, 1 catapult and 2 transports, which adds up to 10 firepower. That may seem like overreach, but it's the smallest fire group I can create. For Mars, I can create smaller ones with 1 of each, which adds up exactly to 7, 4, 2, 1. 1 because zeros count as ones in fire groups. And that's one of the numbers they recommend. I'm not seeing any particular advantage to it, but whatever. Switch to using different colored dice so I can just roll once. But more importantly than that, we just had a ship take significant damage, a crippling hit on this one. I'm turning it upside down to indicate it's one I have to look up if it fires, because again, that'll make things easier if I can see if they're face up. If they're facing this way, I just use their strength, whatever. These are the kind of little shortcuts and whatnot that, you know, make a game more playable. At the end of fire, I don't think there's anything that can be repaired, so I won't be doing to the repair phase. We've gotten a couple of hits. We took the repair and a burn off this unit, which is now upside down as well. We took a repair off another one. I'm not too worried about which one that is and what's up with that. Had some individual fires that I had to do because the numbers didn't work out. But for this, it just fired at a ship. For this guy, or for these two, they each fired at missiles. I figured, you know, I'm not likely to do a lot of damage, although I could have kept blinking at ships. I don't think any firepower has been impacted at all. And so that means we just go to the joint movement phase, which will shift these forward. Since Mars did not burn, that means that all these missiles are going to hit my hex on this upcoming turn. Since both sides have ships that would get kind of left out if I did any kind of burn, I'm leaving the vectors as they are. This is going to get worse and worse as time goes by. Eventually they're going to fly by each other. Ooh, let's get the z-axis right, I guess. Especially with that 2 speed, so then I do have to worry, but I'd rather maintain my fire groups. Honestly, you know, actually I am gonna reduce the movement of all of the Ares ships, because that ship was outside of a fire group anyway. A load of missiles released, and now with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I know what the burns are, so I know I can hit, I'm good. In terms of firing, the missiles are diving in first. They have an increased chance of destroying ships, so they're kind of useful. I knocked the burn capacity out of another ship, not crippled or anything. The first one was crippled. And if that's going to happen, I want to start trimming them away, so I'm firing my fighters at them as well. With all the missiles having been launched, we're on a going to decide what my fire is, but now it's going to concentrate again on the ships on both sides. With all the missiles gone, we can see what happened. A bunch of them have had their lasers reduced a little bit. How big a deal? I don't know. Not too big a deal where the repair hasn't been hit with it. But there's 2 crippled ships, which is a big deal because those can't even recover. So they're just going to keep skidding along. Eventually they will be out of the battle. I did turn my heat on. I'm just checking this thing. Looks like it's okay. And there it falls apart again because I tried to do things one-handed. I did turn my heat on, but I can't come to a conclusion as to, gee, I should either go out and get a new lighter, because this thing is just too much of a pain and I have to use a Bic to light it because its striker is just not very good. Or to just order one online. Like, the easiest thing to do would be to order it online. But I just can't bring myself to make up my decision. And obviously, you know, it would be more effective for me to go out and get one, because then I walk. Sure, I have to walk, and that's a pain in the ass. It's quite a walk, actually. Probably about an hour each way. To the only place I know that has them within that distance. You know, there might be someplace a little closer, but I'm not sure of it. And then, you know, probably pay a little more. But, like, If I ordered it online, it would come to me within a few days, reasonably. Whereas if I keep putting off because it's rainy, it's just, I'm being stupid. But I don't know how to cope. These kind of decisions just throw me for a loop. But I could turn on the heat. At least that much I was like, well, I can at least do that. I also cleaned my heater in my bedroom, which, a little space heater thing that I thought I had killed, but actually it works fine now. Some less significant damage overall. I did screw up though, taking this guy out of the firing groups, whatever. I ended up forgetting about him until towards the end. He shot a fighter, knocked a couple burn off it. We got a couple of hits all over the place. On the first turn, I think I forgot to do any repairs, so, well, too bad. But now I'll do them. This is the situation. All that firing was kind of tedious. I don't really want to... They seem like they're moving too fast. See, they went 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, everything is closing together to where the firing is getting, it's going to be a little bit more effective. It might make sense to stop firing in fire groups. The big deal with the fire groups is to get you off those really awful columns of like 9 or 7 or whatever. We went from 6 to 4 by doing firing groups, which feels like a good choice. But here we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, which is not a terrible row. Certainly it's a little bit more solid when you go out to the heavier rows. And of course, you're also giving up some of the firepower, right? So I'd be, maybe firing in this range. What did we say? We're on the 4? So I'd be firing on the 2 column here, which is pretty damn rich with firing groups, but it would take 3 ships, whereas each single ship could be firing down here on the 4 table. And I think I get more total hits. That's going to be more obnoxious to record and deal with, but of course I've got the catastrophe of all those missiles to deal with as well. I need a break. Playing the game strategically is fine. Playing the battles out, it's pretty fucking tiresome. It's, there's nothing terrible in the battle, except for the fact that most of your rolls don't do shit, especially at range. There's nothing that terrible about the battle system. I compare it to something like La Grande Guerre with its stupid rolled, paradise to hit, and you look it up on a chart, just like you do here, and then you roll another paradise, I think, to see if the armor prevents it. It's just such a cumbersome system that makes so little sense. It would make a lot more sense to build a chart of, attack factor versus armor instead of just coming up with numbers based on it. And then that game also has repairs and whatnot going on in it. And it doesn't have the the potential for enjoyment of maneuvering. We did see some maneuvering, like when the fleets broke up and stuff like that, and we're able to see some tactics like park and bomb the base that, sure, they could be represented in a much simpler form than this. In fact, all of the movement stuff probably could be. You could do something where you're like, okay, everything starts together in a squad, in a massed fleet, but then you send things out to chase and whatever, and they each have their own range things. Wonder what that was. I would have guessed it's a big drop of water, but I don't think so. I've got a leak here that's been here since I got here, but I don't know what the hell that noise was. All right. All right, just before combat. I'm going to move this lamp a little bit. I can't move it much. The cord's not very big, but my eyes are giving me trouble. And let's see. Ares, all their ships still were able to burn, so I came to a halt here. Meanwhile, everything else, including this thing, is still just keeping consistent movement. The Martians have taken a couple of units that don't have burden capacity anymore. I think 4 of their catapults have been hit. So, yeah, and one of their fighters has as well, but their fighters could get rid of the 1 point of momentum pretty easily. The missiles have landed and will of course get shot up. Another wave is coming, and it's time to start rolling dice for combat, the tedious part. You know, don't get me completely wrong. I enjoy space combat games that involve a lot of detail in the combat, and this is sort of a halfway point for me, right? It's like, this is better than stupid battle boards, which I really hate. This seems to give something. It's just, I feel like the tactics that emerged from this system should have caused a reworking of that whole, you know, what was sort of the center point of the game. And obviously, you know, you're not going to be able to get Simonson to agree, yeah, let's just shelf this for a different game, one where there's enough differentiation and enough interest where maneuver might be possible. So, yeah. Reminds me of, is kind of, if you think about, like, outside of the, you know, space combat situation, or the combat situation at all, in a sense, a couple of friends of mine, well, one of my friends designed the game, Battle Lords of the 23rd Century, where you put all kind of chromy and cool weapons in. The core systems I had disagreements with. I thought they didn't do as good a job as many other games did. But they really highlighted all these special weapons and special abilities that different races had and everything. And you really didn't put a lot of work into that kind of stuff. And this is a role-playing game. And, you know, when I met people from other areas, not just his group, that got hooked by the game, they were people who were drawn in by that. And that's the same kind of story as I have with the SFB. And that makes it hard for other games to appeal in quite the same way. SFB had a nice source material in terms of different weapon types on the show, as well as in the cartoon version and whatnot, that really showed very different types of capabilities. And from that emerged a rich, like, tapestry of different tactical systems that were designed to make, you know, those weapon systems work better. And all that differentiation made a great deal of difference. Here, you know, things like parsimony and the idea that, like, this is the same, you know, basically these are people flying the same ships. It's just one with a different allegiance, but, you know, they've got the exact same equipment, really, to begin with. It kind of necessitates that things would not be as different as they could. I would still think that something could have been done to make the game it would make the game more complicated to put firing arcs in. Say ships can only fire out the front, and so here's what it should be: ships can only fire out the front. Ships can only accelerate in the direction of their rear. Okay, and there might be minor accelerations, etc. And you had to spin your ship in the direction of the vector you want it to go. Now, that's complicated, though, because which way are you facing when it comes down to it? Which way are you actually facing when you apply a multi-part vector? So you'd have ships, you know, having to sit, say, like this, or maybe like this. It would just get to be such a complex situation. But those two differentiations would make this a game about maneuver. and would make it more realistic, believable, whatnot, right? The idea that like all your weapons are mounted on a 360-degree turret somehow, or that your engines are able, that you're able to fire your burst from your engine and then swing around and get your guns into play automatically. It all feels a little wrong, and it's these simplifications which have made the game, the tactical game, so dry, lacking any kind of. But all kinds of cool different weapon systems would make it more exciting too. Exchange on the missile side of things did a lot of damage to the catapults. They're getting pretty wrecked up, but I need to knock them out, and also limited intelligence makes this difficult, right? Unless I'm going to look up what I'm shooting at entirely, it's really hard to tell. Hey, have I knocked out that guy's guns? Whatever. I know that I've hit him because I flip them sideways. They've got some damage on them, but I don't know how bad I've hit any of them in particular. I want to knock them out so that they're either completely crippled or knock their lasers out, because it's the lasers that are going to do me harm. I'm okay shooting them. They've got bigger laser capacity than the other ships. Even the damaged ones are about the same as the miners, so I feel like it's okay, but I'm getting to the point where it's like, I'm not so sure they're wise to shoot at anymore. Complete, there's 2 Martian ships that did not get to return fire because their lasers were stripped away. However, we did have a catapult destroyed on Ares. That's a big hit. You know, single lucky shot. Somewhat sadder, I had a couple of my fighters plinking away. They took out 2 missiles. That's pretty lucky, actually, getting 2 for 2 on the missiles. And I've taken out some launch capacity, so some of the ships are not going to be able to launch the last missile. But one of them was off of a 6-6 situation, which would have taken another big catapult down, and I'm like, ah, shit, you know. Which is more valuable, because, you know, my fighters get a lot of shots on the missiles when they're hitting me, but the thing is, they're hitting me. Half of them get to strike me because of the way the fire alternates and everything. It's not like I get to shoot them coming in, except right here. And these aren't that far away, so I've got a fair chance of hitting them. So it seems like a really important time to plink away at them. Anyhow, that'll put us on repair, and then the movement. And yep, the interesting thing about movement is the Martian fleet will be within range of the guns of the base, not of the missiles. The missiles come out and they're going vector 0, so you've got to be within 6 hexes, 6 cubes to be hit by the missiles on a base. The base has a lot of missiles, as many as a catapult does. Okay, maybe it's not that many. I thought they had more, but they're kind of not useful. Like it's a standoff capability, which is why, or it's a capability that you can stand off from and not attack. But if I keep going closer and some of my ships can't help themselves, they're gonna start drawing fire from the missiles. So this is what the final situation shows up as. I kind of screwed up. This guy actually probably should be 1 cube further that way, but I moved him 1 instead of 0 at one point, I think. I don't know. No, because he's ahead of this. So yeah, he's fine. All right, cool. Yeah. And 1 final wave of missiles coming in. 4 missiles total that I was able to launch. There's still 2 more aboard the ships, and of course the 4 on the base, but nobody changed burns. It's too complicated at this point to do so. Makes more sense to just plow ahead, right? Once they pass each other, we're gonna, you know, something's gonna have to happen, but there are ships that just can't burn, and it doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to me within game terms. It doesn't make sense to me to like try to manage all these different ships. There's just too many on the board. Too many different, slightly different values for everything. And the same thing happens in SFB, except usually the firepower in SFB is launched against one ship at a time. You usually don't have the whole fleet with little bits of damage here and there. So your cripples strip off, and that's fine, the same way that this ship, you know, was able to be stripped off without any problem. But once you have a lot of slightly damaged ships that can't quite manage everything, things become kind of different. And the reason for that is another issue with this game. Maybe not a negative, I don't know. It's the fact that there's no structural damage. Like, if you hit something that's not a something on the ship, you should be hitting something. Your weapons should be doing some kind of damage. Now, you can make arguments that, like, yeah, there's just nothing that really, none of these weapons, including these missiles, whatever they're armed with, you would assume they're armed with something kind of potent, is actually capable of taking down a ship. That the lasers are really just able to strip away the external boosters and the lasers, and maybe jam the launch material, but they're not really able to do much damage to the actual core of the ship. It's a little hard to believe that the missiles are so weak, but, you know, they don't have any kind of area of effect or anything, so maybe they are. Maybe they're just slugs being thrown out. Maybe they're not really armed with any kind of significant explosive. Fair amount of fire where it feels like the Martians are getting the worst of the deal, right? These big guns are actually doing quite a bit at range, essentially 1, because they're doing firepower fire groups. I was down to one last fire group with 2 catapults and the base back here. And that was going to be a hard decision. Do I split them up and shoot, or do I give the base, this is big 6 points, a couple range points of advantage? We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a really hard call because I would have been throwing a lot of firepower. It clearly would be on the 12 chart, which means on a 6, boom, right? But anyway, I had that decision taken from my hands when another perfectly healthy catapult went under. Ugh. And, you know, this is the weird thing. It's like, yeah, I'm stripping a lot of maneuver capability, in some cases firepower capability, from miners and such not. But as long as they can get a shot in and can do a fire group shot, it's not that bad. You know, they get a couple of pluses. The pluses don't matter too much because the one table is actually pretty good all the way down. So, you know, it's not as good, but anyway, I guess I fire what I got left. To concentrate some fire from the fighters on one of these transports. I mean, it looks like a blowout when you look at the number of ships involved, right, at this point. But these are a little more chewed up, although there's definitely some damage on the catapults there. But we've been ignoring the transports, and they're all healthy and happy and have pretty good firepower and whatnot. I want to say, wow, they don't have much lasting power because they don't have as many boxes as the catapults do, but it doesn't work that way, right? It really doesn't. And in a way, they have more because they can take burn hits and still have burn capacity. The catapults have lots and lots of boxes, so they can recover their burn capacity, but that first hit knocks their capability to maneuver completely out. And it's just a weird sort of differential between the way the ships operate and whatnot. So these are not to be sneered at. We also took out a missile with some long-range some not in contact plinking. and that's going to put me to repair. We'll see if anything exciting gets fixed. Since the transports are actually sturdier, because they've got that better repair capacity. You know, now the one that I hit, I got a repair hit on it, so I felt like, well, I ought to really start concentrating my plinks on it for whatever that's worth. But yeah, they're tougher nuts to crack, like the base, in the sense that they have that extra repair capacity, so they can fix something every turn. This one, because it had a repair hit, couldn't. It had to roll, but it succeeded anyway. All right, back down to see how I'm doing in raid. All right, let's do another round of this firing back and forth. That's all it really is at this point. No speed changes. Again, for the same reasons, it would disrupt the fire groups too much. I mean, the Martians could conceivably slow down, and they have enough ships they could divide them into two groups without it being a big deal. That last wave of missiles is coming in. I didn't get to launch the additional missiles. I still have one here. His repair is gone, his launch is gone, that's never going to fire. Same thing here. So, yeah, those last two missiles are just not going to happen. Okay, those are done, and we took out a one-shot on some miners. We also took out a burn capacity on another miner, knocked down, not crippled, but unable to burn. So, you know, the fleet just keeps getting more and more unable to react to the situation. Ares is choosing for more firing opportunities, firing each ship individually. Martians are still throwing fire groups out. I'm not sure which is better, to tell you the truth. There's not a clear superiority for one versus the other, mainly because of the range difference. If the range was just a little bit closer, they're two away instead of one. The thing is, the individual firepower that the Ares ships have is higher. They haven't taken a lot of laser hits, which means that each of their shots counts for more, but most of the Martian ships have taken significant hits on their lasers. Or their fighters with a zero laser anyway, so fire group helps a lot with those. I've been grouping fire. Mars is out of shots. Ares still has these four, that, and that. I always forget about this poor sucker. Not that I really want to shoot at him, because he's running away. It's like, yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's just going to get further and further each turn. So this is the end of fire. I'll leave these guys there, leave this here. These are ships that no longer have working firepower, and so I don't really worry about them. Big hit though. One of these transports managed to take out one of the catapults, and trying to remember how much. I think it was actually a pretty healthy one. 104. It wasn't. It certainly wasn't in working shape, but it still had a repair capacity. So, and it had the capability to repair the damage that it had, conceivably. By the way, I said something wrong. Not surprising. Earlier, where I was saying, hey, I could create a fire group using the base. I couldn't. They're too far apart. They're going the right velocity. They can't operate together and coordinate. So now we go to repairs, and then we continue our movement, and we get a little closer. And I think the Martians start to try to overwhelm with just their, with a lot of plinking, which can be really, really devastating. It's just, it's not clear which has more potential to do a lot of damage. Because, you know, I got hits on ships, like I hit this ship with a big burn 3 or something. Its engines are already gone, you know, and it's like, oh great. Too exciting in terms of repairs, you know, I mean, maybe a laser gets fixed here or there, or incremental other stuff, but the repairs are not going to be a big swing. the firepower is taking things down quicker than the repairs are. The big effect with repairs, though, these transports, they're pretty potent, just because they do have repair capacity. That's a reason. I also forgot to mention, I took out a fighter. Now, all I did was hit its laser, which doesn't destroy the fighter, but it might as well. It can't do shit anymore, so I just took it off. Unlike these things, which, at least if they survive the battle, it's an important factor. So they're of some importance. So I'm like, if you silence a laser, you know, I want to have some awareness of what I'm shooting at and what I'm not, because the player kind of knows, and it's like, just take the fucker off the board. Don't confuse me with this shit. You know? But it might be a valid, if you are playing with the hidden trackable information, you know, the way I kind of see it, it might be a valid thing to have that thing coasting around, making burns, looking like it's all up to something. But, you know, I feel like at some point or another you should be able to say, look, this ship is just not firing anymore. I can ignore it. What the hell is that? Some paper from under the whatever board I have there on top. Okay. I think that's it. It's certainly it for a while. I'm very tired at this point. I've been taking naps in and out, so. One thing that's clear is even if Mars wins this fight, they've got so much repairs to put in place, etc., that they're going to be in a lot of trouble anyway. In the sense that, like, yeah, sure, taking a big chunk out of the Earth fleet, the majority of it, to be honest, would be really potent. But some of them are going to get away if Mars wins. Maybe not many, but some. And there's still a fleet here. There's still a fleet heading into Vesta. Mars is not going to be in an equivalent position, I think, to Earth after this battle, no matter what. The question is, will they be in a position where they have any chance of survival, or is it just done? I think the rain is done for today, but the idea of energizing enough to go shopping is just too much for me. Especially since I'm in a clan fight in Raid. And you can probably, it's almost like it's raining, but it's raining pine needles. You know, it eats up so much time if you let it. But I need to go this week. For the lighter, I think I've made the decision. I'm going to wait till Friday. I'm going to pick it up on my way to the bar. Because that way I can carry just a Bic or whatever with me. And buy the lighter. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, though, because it comes with packaging and everything. It's a fucking pain in the ass. I just don't know. A little bit more on the personal front before I start rolling combat dice and running up and down stairs. A viewer who was trying to get more information than I gave in my review on Inferno. Ooh, there's humans. Mentioned that there's another game in the Nothing Gained But Glory. All is Lost Save Honor. One of those two. I can't remember. The name seems very similar to me. Those guys are going to be, I don't know where they are. They should be down here somewhere. I don't see it. Anyway, it's one of the Europa Simulations games that I actually covered. And maybe it's back here because I added some boxes over here. No way. Those are all ancients. Yeah, I don't know where it is. I'm not seeing it. This is really disturbing to me. This is later. I don't know. Should be in here somewhere. Oh, fuck. I can't find anything anymore, it seems. Did it move? No, that's going to be even later revolutionary stuff. I don't know where the fuck it is. It should be down here. I can at least get the name right if I can find the okay, nothing gained but glory is the musket and pike. So all is lost save honor. I don't know where the fuck it is. I thought it was a boxed game. Maybe it's not. Maybe it was a folio and it's down. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, anyway, I ordered another one of those from an earlier period. But same series, to give that another look, because I kind of enjoyed that one, although it was a bit painful. But I love anything that gets me into that kind of operational, but the earlier you go, kind of. Because he was asking, hey, are you going to cover that? And I'm like, God, I wasn't planning on it, but now that I know it exists, I kind of have to. Even though I'm trying not to buy more games. And while I was there, another game designed by the second designer, or maybe the primary one, Enrico Acerbi, for Inferno, has a tactical game. And you know, I have no idea of his capabilities as a designer overall. You know, he's modifying a Volco design, and yeah, he couldn't fit into the rules set for Volco very well. Like, he doesn't have the peculiarity of a combination of concision and precision that I feel Volco kind of exemplifies and gets away with, although the wordings are weird. But you know, it just didn't come across quite as fluidly or quite as effectively. Like, in the sense that in Inferno, I had actual questions. Is this what you mean? You know, it's not clear. Where you don't have that with Volco's rules. It's like, you look at it and you're like, well, I misunderstood it, but I see exactly how he's constructing this, and precisely that it can only mean the one thing. At least that's my experience. But anyway, so I picked up another one by him because, you know, again, this one is, Jesus, I don't remember, Piacenza, I think. I don't know. But it's going to be a gunpowder era stuff. Anyway, let's get back to this, but I got to run downstairs and play with Raid for a little moment. I decided to make life complicated. These ships all have burns capable available to them. So they all took a burn and are stopping. They're going to be the square representing them, and I could pull out another square to do so. The circle is these ships, two of which have no firepower available. They're just wiped out. And then the final set is this set up here, which is actually moving up on the z-axis. It came to a stop in this direction and is moving up on the y-axis as well. So these ships are all unable to fire. They're neutralized, but I want to get them out of the fighting area so that they can potentially escape if we're losing the battle. I mean, if we're losing the battle, we lost the game. Now I got to consider whether Ares has anything clever they want to do. Basically, being parked here seems fine to me, and this ship can't do anything, so I think I'm okay. I don't think I want to withdraw back towards the base, although there are advantages to doing so. I have plenty of ships that have no burn capacity left anymore, so I think I just want to park with Ares. A little wrong. There's one Ares ship that's completely had its firepower knocked out. It might as well run as well. no reason to stick around. Of course, this is going to generate weirdnesses in multiple places. I'm hoping to get this stack completely on its own at some point. But right now, I feel like I need to use the disc there. But this ship just got its firepower crippled. It would have broken off with the others. It has maneuver capability. But instead, it's like a third set in my divisions, and my divisions are becoming more and more complicated to the point where I'm getting to the point where I don't know if I can keep doing this. I'm planning again though on withdrawing these so that I just have a couple of stacks that are represented by wooden blocks. Strange, I don't believe that fire groups make anywhere near the same kind of sense, so I'm shooting each ship one at a time as well. One ship was, well, one thing was destroyed, in this case another fighter. The other one was just stripped of its laser, but the effect is the same, and I just won it off the board. Now I've got to puzzle out what the hell this all means, as well as conduct the repairs first. So this is the picture after this round, which is this guy's flying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's almost out of range. The shame of it all is I'm going to have to shift everything because of him. Meanwhile, because if he was at 9 or more from everything, it would be fine. But as it stands, he's at 8. And next turn he'll fall off the map, so no problem. Yeah, no problem at all. He's fine. I don't have to shift anything. He gets one more long-range shot at the Martian forces. These guys have detached, and you can see they're moving up on the z-axis as well. As this is also detached, going up in this direction, but going down on the z-axis. Again, I randomized, you know, I made my first choices and then I randomized from there because everything's kind of symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter. This is this force, which was out of burns, and some of them have no capability to fire right now, but I can't be sure that they can't repair, so I think these are permanently out, but I'm not positive. And similarly with these, I think they're permanently out of capability to fire, and then this is here. So this group is still moving with momentum towards the base. This group is parked right here, trading shots with a much smaller but more powerful ships fleet, because this is made up almost entirely of fighters. There's 1, 2 miners there left. The fighters are hard. First of all, I don't shoot at the fighters very much because it kind of sucks to hit a fighter. It does so little in terms of the strategic value of it. And also, they're actually kind of hard to kill. If you get a laser hit on them, yeah, it's out. But it has such limited laser fire anyway. If you get burn hits on them, man, they've got like a lot of capacity to still operate once you start hitting their burn, because they have 4 points of burn available. Sure, each one takes damage off of it, but with the bigger ships, a single hit on the burn on the catapult, and the ship is immobilized. And sure, you have to hit it a lot more on the burns to make sure that it stays that way. But in terms of like tactical effect, that's probably good enough to just immobilize it. Anyway, so that's what we've got. I think I've got it right. I don't know. And it is so expensive, you know, in terms of like just mechanical actions and everything, that I want to go down and take a break. I've had their lasers completely neutralized, breaking a couple more off, and accelerating in various directions. The Ares one is doing the same. Just trying to get out of the battlefield, essentially. Firing, and I'm assuming everybody who's escaping has no weapons, because otherwise I think I made an error. Ares started concentrating more on the fighters. They've knocked out most of the ships, and they're getting rid of a lot of these pesky little things. But at the same time, they're taking hits. These 3 ships have been neutralized, essentially. Again, things that if they've got any burn capacity, want to get out of there. I know some of them are too crippled. Likewise, these guys, but I think these guys have no burn capacity. They're just stuck. They're part of this formation. This is this formation. This ship is completely worthless. The rest, there's 1 miner, and the rest are fighters. So, you know, the fighters are largely, it either does nothing, which includes hitting burn, or it wipes it out, which includes hitting the laser, even though the fighter is still technically there. Time to do repairs, and then I'll do the programmed movement. I think we have some potential withdrawals. I'm going to handle those right now. First of all, this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Too far away, so this ship is going to be withdrawing. And we don't put it with the dead ships. We keep it up there or something. This one probably is as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. 7, 3 is not going to do it, but we're quite a bit off on this, which means so we're at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off of any ship. So 3, 7, 6 would put us beyond 9. So this one also gets to disengage. And it's again a crippled ship. So these, you know, depending on how the battle goes, they might have to make a survival check. Everything else I think is still close enough that it's in combat. This might be getting out of there. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's like 3, 1, 4. So we'd look at 1, 3, 4. It's within range. They're probably gone in the sense that Ares doesn't want to shoot at them. There's just no purpose. This battle determines the victory, probably. So if Ares wins this battle, I think the war is over. Because there's just not enough of a remaining Martian fleet. They have no capacity to build ships outside of Mars, and I could basically station and take the remainder of the things. What you're seeing here is a little different. Like most of the players who have declared, well, you know, I lost, or I took Earth from the opponent, or I took Mars from the opponent in the first couple turns of the game, which I think is just how the game kind of happens. Regardless of whether you're playing with the operational intelligence failure that is baked into it, it doesn't really matter. If you don't garrison everything fully, like if you don't garrison your home planet fully with most of your ships, it may well fall. And if you do garrison it, that would change the game, but the nature of the game might be the other guy is able to go out and hit the asteroids, but that doesn't really work either, because then they won't be garrisoning theirs. So you might have little skirmishes at the asteroids, but you're not going to see like a fairly decent fleet going out to them in general. The big fleets are going to be between Earth and Mars. And anything that happens on the periphery, who knows? And the only question then becomes, you know, did both people take the other person's planet at the same time or whatever? Anyway. But as opposed to those games, when people have reported what they're doing, it almost always sounds like, I lost my main, or I took the opponent's main planet, because it's always from the winner's point of view. I took the opponent's main planet on like turn 6 or turn 4 or something like that, and I won because he resigned. And I was like, you know, if he screwed up enough that his whole fleet wasn't there, I don't know if it's necessarily right to resign. Like what we're seeing here is Mars is putting up a hell of a fight to try to retake their planet. Even though they lost a chunk of fleet, the fact of the matter is Ares does not have enough fleet to garrison both the home planets and the asteroids and whatnot that they're trying to grab. So I don't know, it all depends on where the mistakes are made. What you can't expect, and what the situation in this game is so screwed up, because it's really, really easy to get from Mars to Earth and vice versa, whereas the exterior things are much, much harder to fight for. So you've got like people who are coming into this maybe with a Pacific War type of mindset where, you gotta fight your way to Japan or fight your way to Hawaii in order to launch that, final crippling blow. It's not the case here. This is more like, I don't know, something like a European colonial war, a European general war that has colonies involved. The truth of the matter is whatever fighting's happening in the colonies is so much less important than what's happening here. But because it's got this kind of naval flavor to it, space games tend to, right? I think the mindset goes over more to, well, we should capture the intermediate things on our way there or whatever. There are no intermediate things. Earth, you have to have this locked in. This is a fight between Earth and Mars. And anything else that's there, yeah, maybe you can send some colonial patrols there, but don't concentrate. That's not your main goal in this. Anyway, the only burns are to continue letting crippled ships that can try to escape. Ares has one trying to go, and Mars is sending yet another one out, but we're just pumping them out slowly. The only use for the 3D, as far as I'm concerned, seems to be trying to get away and possible pursuits and whatnot. Firing reduced capabilities a little bit, nothing too big. One of them, 128, I think it was, I don't know what it is. Yeah, 128 there. Actually lost like 3 lasers off of a lucky fighter shot. But for the most part, not much changing. We've got the spacing out of the ships here. These guys are going to be able to get out of there. I'll pull them off the board. What about these guys? These guys are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off the plane. That's this one. So that's 7, 137. 137, still technically in range. So I'm guessing everything else is in range. Just those 3 ships are getting out of there. One problem with the ships that are getting out of there, some of them may have some burn capabilities that can be repaired and whatever. And I'm continuously rolling for the repairs. It's not really too big a deal. It's just, it's easier to do than looking to see if they need to be repaired or whatnot. You could look them over and erase any significant damage on them, but I kind of like to see what the total damage to the fleets is too, even if the ships aren't present anymore. A lot more of significance changed. This guy got his engines back. The base is getting targets coming in range. Sure, also a threat, but not really. But who knows, there is the 1 in 36 or whatever it works out to. The firepower is not enough to put it higher than that. And we've got some people who are out of range at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, no question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 6, 7. Still within range. So only that guy gets away. These guys are probably out of range though. They're moving pretty fast. So they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4, 6, 6. That sounds pretty bad. No, still in range. So yeah, just one ship is getting out of here. These ships are going so fast and are so far away already. I'm just going to pick them off. These guys, well, that guy. Just to make my job a little bit easier. There's nothing going on. I'm just tracking them as they move. I fucked up as soon as these things kind of crossed this line, which is I haven't been using my missiles, which I didn't even think about until I got a hit on my launcher. Guess we'll start launching them. I don't think it matters. It looks to me like Ares just won this battle. It's not pretty. It really isn't. But let's look at functioning ships. We have two kind of beaten up functioning miners here. What do we have for them? Well, the two catapults are kind of beaten up. This thing's sort of beaten up, but not badly. Like it's going to be able to repair its lasers to full. And this thing's completely healthy for transports. In addition, I have the miner. That's for ships. The thing that was pushing things in Mars's favor was the huge quantity of fighters, but now that swarm is down to 4 fighters, only one of which, you know, has full burn capacity. But they all have full firepower. They could get lucky. They could blow away the remainder of the functioning ships. But do I really think that, you know, between this against this lined up, the ships are stronger? As long as I've got them in this column, they're stronger because that means they have at least a 0 laser, right? Well, I don't know. They might be stronger. And these suckers are no match for the base by any means. So, yeah, I just don't see how the Martians are going to take that base, how they're going to neutralize it. They could get lucky, though. A lucky shot could blow it up, and then the whole structure kind of changes in that case because additional fire might be coming in from back here, and who knows what happens. Something happened in the repairs of some interest. Ship 227 down here, the Elbow G. I don't know. Actually regained its thrusters, so we can like stop or something and turn around and try to get away from the base for whatever value that might be. Also, the base, remember, has a huge repair capacity, so, well, that launcher is fixed. Which means, after we plot our burns, whatever's left of them, the missiles get to launch. Bases only have one launch location, so one little missile comes out. And the question is, do you shoot it? Do you let it smack into your ship? You certainly don't shoot it now. And this is a pretty hopeless picture. I pulled another Martian ship off the board, but yeah, I mean, we're at the end. It's just, there is the possibility anytime there's a battle of really crazy luck coming in because this table gives you that 1 in 36 chance of destroying things. So, you know, chances are not all that high. Chances are relatively good that nothing much happens, although the fighters are fairly weak, fairly easy to just knock out. What is it, a laser, a repair, or a launch, all destroy it. Just one hit of any of those, for all intents and purposes. If you knock out the laser, sure, it can burn and run around, but it's of no worth. It has no economic value. It's just, it's a nothing. It gets automatically replaced when it gets where it's going. And it's expended no matter what in battle, whether you launch them or not. So we've got 2 fighters and a miner up against a base, 2 catapults, and 2 transports. It's not at all a fair fight. At this point, you know, the Martian commander would probably be striking colors and hoping for the best result they can get. Just look at all those fighters dead. You know, they were a potent force, but a really iffy one in the sense that, like, they didn't tend to do much damage, but even with massed fire at range, but they, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have split fire with them as much as I did, but it felt like it was my best chance of dealing with the fact that they started splitting fire. Like, they were getting more shots on me and getting better hits. The truth of the matter was, the Ares fleet was just still better. Do the missiles outgun the fighters? That's what I saw in the first fight that I did when I was just doing you know, a test outside of the campaign game. The missiles are just better than the fighters. Here I'm not so sure. Here it felt like the fighters really kind of carried their weight for a little while, and it wasn't until I concentrated on destroying them, just like concentrating on destroying the missiles, that I was able to get the advantage on it. But I had the ship advantage and the strength advantage. There's no question of that. And once some ships start coming close to the base because their engines are blown out, well, that changes the calculation as well. You know, the base is able to blow things, get its fire into play as well. Anyway, I'm going to break for a bit. Right, another round. The last of those fighters is gone. All that's left is a cripple who can't do anything. I don't know, it might have some movement. I haven't looked. 213. It shouldn't. It's got tons of burn. It could get out of there. I don't know why I haven't moved it. But yeah, that one probably should have tried getting out of there. Worth firing out just because of that. The only remaining Martian ships that are eligible to do anything are this one, which is sitting here. It's out of, its burn is gone. All it's got, actually its burn might be back. It did some, no. It's got its lasers, its engines are shot out. And this one, which is the one that finally got its engines back and started withdrawing back. That might be a good candidate for the final, for this missile here. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of cleaning up the last of the Martians, just because there is still some chance. And you could argue, well, if there's still some chance here, there would still be some chance with some attack. Yeah, but not really. In fact, even if the Martians win at this point, like through a miraculous situation, I just don't think they have enough fleet to protect anything. Basically, Earth can garrison these heavily enough that it'll cost the Martians to take them more than they can afford, and it can certainly garrison both Mars and Earth to an extent, and launch attacks and whatnot, to an extent that the Martians just can't hold anything. Obviously, I don't have to go wipe out every ship because I've got production and they don't, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, it's really just a matter of mopping up, but again, there's some slight chance always. I don't know. I can call it here. I think the Martians surrender. It's just hopeless. You know, this is flying away. It's that's this group. There's one ship, which is number 206, I think. Might be 205. 206, which has 2 lasers on it. It can still shoot. 227 or 221 or whatever is out of lasers. Everything's out except this one ship. This is the only thing that can hit anything. It's got a missile coming in on it. It's got the full fire of the base coming in on it. I think we're done. And I think we're also done with the campaign, because it kind of doesn't matter how much of this escapes to jump somewhere else. There's no production coming in. I didn't make the attacks over here, which means two of the 4 asteroids are going to be giving their points to Earth, which is 6 more logistics points, which is enough for me to repair my stuff. Sure, the Martians have enough to repair their stuff too, but they have no capability to get any more fleets and everything, and it would really just be prolonging the game at this point, which I think I've done plenty of already. So that's your Battlefleet Mars. From what I've read of what people's experience of it is, yeah, it quite often ends, you know, the people who seem to be most excited about it are like people who won the game in the first couple turns off of a quick attack like this. Whether or not, you know, I contend that the operational surprise that the game kind of that the game rules kind of insist upon isn't even necessary for that to happen. It is just sort of the logical outcome of the game. What could you do differently? You could play this very differently. If you wanted to play a second time, if I wanted to play a second time, my feeling would be, yeah, I just garrison my home planet and use limited resources to try to hold and work within the asteroids. And that may be the goal of it. That may be the whole point to it all. Of course, with the complete operational surprise, what could happen? Well, you could leave your home planet completely defenseless and your opponent doesn't know that. What's he going to do about it? I mean, if he's wise, he's garrisoned his own planet. So you're sending essentially a big strike force or a moderate-sized force to one of the asteroids. But you're sending a big strike force probably to his home planet to try to take it out. And you're hoping you get lucky. And maybe you outnumber him. The Martians should outnumber the Earthlings early in the game. The truce in this game kind of made it so that Ares had a little bit of an advantage. They were able to make it long enough for their missiles to be ready. Like, they were able to prevent a Martian first strike had I planned one, but I really didn't. And Ares, basically their best turn for attack is when they more or less landed this, right? If we look, the truce ended on turn 4. It took 2 turns to get from Earth to Mars. I couldn't load my missiles until turn 2. So it was the exact earliest time. Now, the Martians could have landed a similar attack force on Earth. And even if the entire Earth force was there, they might have had the advantage if they had sent all their ships to Earth on starting turn 1. And maybe that's what the game's about, you know, is can you win it all on that first turn attack or whatever? I have no idea. It doesn't, no matter how you shake this out, it's not really satisfying. But is there a way that you can make it work? Maybe. But yeah, I mean, my feeling is it's not the operational surprise which gets you those, oh, look, I set my fleet out and he didn't know where I was coming from or whatever. It really comes down to, because if your fleet's not there and he takes you, that's not that big a deal. It's if your fleet is there and he defeats, and you get defeated and your fleet is smashed and you've lost your home world. That's the problem. So, I don't know. I mean, it's not good to lose your home world, right? Like, the idea that the Martians could just say, well, let's flee to the outer asteroids and to Jupiter. They can't win a long-term war that way. They'll be behind the 8 ball as soon as they lose Mars, no matter how they lose it. But they have no chance if they lose their fleet and they lose Mars, or vice versa, if the Earthlings. And the truth of the matter is those bases are not a very strong defensive position. They, you know, we saw here, it barely got involved in the fight. When they're alone, they're completely able to be just destroyed. The missiles didn't help the Ares base at all. Missiles are pretty useless for that kind of situation. Fighters would have been a little bit better. I don't really know if I see an advantage of fighters over missiles, vice versa, on the tactical. Certainly in the strategic, or in the abstract tactical, they are rated absolutely equivalently. There's no reason, you know, if you're armed with fighters, you get an extra point per ship. If you're armed with missiles, you get an extra point per ship. And it doesn't matter. The fact that, like, transports, which have a relatively high laser value for their cost, see them here, they cost the same as miners. Well, they cost in turns the same as miners. They're a little bit more expensive. But they have less capability for carrying cargo, which means that they cannot have a fighter on board, and they only carry 1 missile instead of 2. Which to me means that like they shouldn't just get the same +1, and that a catapult, which has double the capacity that the miners have, also shouldn't just get a +1. It should be balanced out by how much they actually are carrying. Like, I don't know, give them an amount of points equal to the amount of missiles they can carry or whatever. And don't give Mars, like, I don't know how to do it. I really don't, because it's like, I feel like the transports are advantaged, obviously, by the missiles. So, yeah, you'd give them a point for each amount of missiles they can carry, but the Martians don't get odd points, right? So if Martians have a transport, they get 0 points. But if they have a miner, they still get the same 2 points because they're able to carry a fighter, which is about the equivalent of 2 missiles or whatever in the game. It meant to balance that out. That would show some of the differentiation between the different ship types in a way that doesn't reflect, again, if you play the abstract game. In a lot of ways, though, the abstract game or the abstract tactical just does not give you the same results that you're going to get out of playing it out on the battle board. Now, this is a common problem with games that, work with a detailed tactical type situation and then give you a different combat results system. I know, if you play Federation and Empire, the difference between using the Fed and Emp combat table and the combat resolution using SFB, it's tremendously different. Like, let's put it this way. Massive drone fleets are unbeatable in the first few years of the General War. They are unbeatable. And that's not reflected at all. So, like, the game starts out with the Klingons and Kzintis at war. And, yeah, the Kzintis should just... that's not to say, so, like, you can attack really weak forces and crush them with the Klingons, because you have numerical superiority. But anything that comes close to a big fleet versus a big fleet, you're going to be defeated by the Kzintis with their massive drone quantities. And similarly, the Klingons are going to kind of light up the Federation's day because the drones are so powerful. Although they have their carrier groups, and their Gatling phasers and all kind of crap like that, which like make things a little bit different. Much more interesting is what happens over on the Hydran Klingon border, because I think the Hydran ships have the advantage. But boy, do they take a beating coming in, and and it's just like the regular combat results table like this doesn't make any differentiation as to how different weapon systems interact with one another. All right. Anyway, I'm going to send this up. I don't know when I'm going to get to reviewing it. I mean, if you've been watching all of this, you got a pretty good idea of what my feeling is about it.